So I'm making this video. I have this live feed of birds eating from a bird feeder in the background. I'm going to turn that off. Okay, anyway. Interesting. I don't know what to talk about. I mean, where to start. There's a million things. Right now it's February 2nd, Groundhog Day, my favorite holiday. One of my favorites. 2026, there's so much that's happened. I've been wanting to be a political commentator for like 25 years, and I just did every other thing instead, partly because I felt like I shouldn't be, because half my family is leftist, and I didn't want to stir up trouble. But excuses aside, like, I don't know. I love truth. I love honesty. I love diving into discussions and deep extrapolating, digging down, Socratic method, questioning everything to get to the truth. And so what are the big topics right now? Well, Iran has just had their huge protest, and Trump promised that he would fight the Ayatollahs if they dared to hurt the protesters. Well, they mowed down like 50,000. It's hard to get exact numbers. Some say 20,000, some say more than 50. But they blocked the entire internet, and they basically have been just murdering protesters like crazy. One of the largest single atrocities in all of human history that's recorded. Like 30,000 people were killed in just less than 48 hours, January 8th and 9th, I think it was. But hopefully Trump is planning to do something. I really don't know. I hope he is. I know Netanyahu would do something if he could. I know Trump is holding him back, and I know the idea that if he were to take out the Ayatollahs, which Israel could totally do easily, it would start off a chain reaction where 15 other Muslim countries would see that as an act against Islam and not an act to simply free the Persian, Iranian people who've been held under bondage of these horrible Ayatollahs for so long. And so that would start all kinds of crazy wars back and forth. And then the world would take sides, and then the U.S. would have to jump in, and it would be a big mess. So that's why Trump is holding back Netanyahu. But I think Israel is at the point where they're sick. They could care less. They don't care anymore about world opinion. They've catered to world opinion forever, and it's backfired. And 70% of the world hates them for no reason. Then they just believe the propaganda. The propaganda has been winning for 40 years. And now they're like, screw it. We're just going to live our lives. But they also care about real persecuted people. Netanyahu spoke out about the Nigerian Christians being massacred by Boko Haram and other Islamic terrorist groups. And so here you have these Israeli Jews speaking out about the persecuted Christians, both in Nigeria and the persecuted multicultural Persians in Iran, who Iran used to not be heavily Islamic. It was a combination of Christians, Zoroastrians, Jews, and Muslims, but moderate Muslims, who were mostly Persian. They're not even Arab. They're not even related to the other Arab countries. But then they were taken over by the Ayatollahs in 1978, 79, and since then, it's just been a horrible, horrible situation. But anyway, so these are all things to talk about. I want to talk to people about them. What do you guys think? Put some questions in the comments. Ask me some things. I love talking about this stuff. The woke right is this new thing, this new Jew hate that started out like, I don't know, 5 years ago. It's been building for about 10 years. I just started bumping into these people who are just regular right-wing anarchist type, like, just leave me alone and let me build my life. And then come to find out that they're like, oh, and by the way, Hitler was right and we hate the Jews. And the Jews are the most evil people ever. I was confused at first, like that. Nobody believes that anymore in America. That's like a 1920s KKK thing. Like, you guys are for real? Like, even the skinheads and the neo-Nazis and everything, they're like so marginalized. Nobody's been taking them seriously for like 50 years. And then suddenly everybody's popping up with these old crazy things like the Jews did this and they did that and they did everything. And the wildest thing is that anyone who's actually spent time with Jewish people, really like had dinner with them, went to synagogue with them, hung out with them, they're probably the nicest, most gentle, kind, thoughtful people you will ever meet. The only people more kind, thoughtful, and gentle are the really, really hardcore, serious evangelical Christians, the kind who like go on mission trips around the world trying to bring people to their faith. But you're picking on like the most beautiful people on earth and ascribing to them these monstrous characteristics that are so cartoonish that you have to borrow from every other stereotype. The idea that that radical Muslims hate the infidel, they hate anybody who's not Muslim. They put that on the Jews. They say, oh, Jews hate anybody who's not Jewish, which is completely false. If you've ever hung out with a Jewish person, they don't even want people to be, they're the only religion that doesn't seek converts. They don't want other people to become Jewish because they think being Jewish is a really hard discipline and it's not very forgiving and it doesn't give you it doesn't give you an easy life, and they don't want to put that on anybody. Anybody's welcome to join, they're welcome to convert, but they don't ask people to convert, unlike every other religion. They don't force people, they don't ask people, and they are one of the few religions that believes the other religions are still going to heaven. They believe you go to heaven if you're a good person, regardless of if you're a different religion. Islam doesn't believe that. Christianity doesn't believe that. But anyway, these Jew haters, they say Jews hate everybody who's not a Jew. It's completely insanely false. They say that Jews are secretly satanic, that they're parasitically trying to prey on every other culture. The only other actual people group that sort of lives parasitically off of other cultures, you could say, is the Gypsies sometimes, or the Roma. And that's not always true, but there are a lot of run-ins with a lot of theft built into the culture, and that's something that if you are of that culture and you take issue with that and you want to correct me, I want to talk to you. I want to learn more things, but that's my understanding of the little bit I know. But all the things that Islam does, all the evil things that radical Muslims do, these Jew haters, they pretend Jews do that too. All the things Satanists do, they pretend Jews do that too. And any other possible thing they can think of. These are the people who in the Dark Ages said that Jews turned into black cats so that they could spy on Christian families. They said to make matzah, they had to grind up Christian children and use their blood to make matzah. They said the Black Plague was caused by Jews poisoning the wells. Like, the insanity that doesn't make any sense at all. And then they say Jews control everything. They control the banks and Hollywood and like, how do you have a people group who simultaneously is in charge of everything? They control everything, but then they're underneath everything, bottom feeding off of everybody. But then they also are the most oppressed people on earth. How are you in charge of everything and you're also the most oppressed? Well, they say, oh, they're not really oppressed. They lie about being oppressed. Which flies in the face of every historian on earth, like every thousands and thousands of people that hid Jews during the Holocaust, that they say there was no Holocaust, or they say, oh, it wasn't 6 million, it was only less than 1 million, which like that makes it better. Like the fact that you even think that makes it better makes you a horrible person. Like, imagine saying to the Armenians who had their own Holocaust, again from Turkish Muslims, around the World War I, where I believe 1.5 to 2.5 million Armenians were murdered. Imagine if I was like, oh, the Armenian Holocaust wasn't 2 million. It was only like 3/4 of 1 million. So therefore the Armenians are liars. Imagine telling like families that were decimated their grandparents, their parents were murdered and brutally raped. Oh, it was only a third of your people that were killed, not the numbers you put up. You're just a piece of shit person. Like, these are real people. This is real families. These are real lives. You're talking to people who lost family members, and to you, it's a game, it's a joke. And that's the thing, is that most of the woke right, most of these Jew haters are like basement dwelling, low quality young males who are angry. They're angry about life. Most of them have been crapped on by leftists and liberals and leftist women for so long that they feel marginalized themselves. But instead of turning against the leftists, they have to find a bigger boogeyman who's more obscure and more weird. So they turn on Jews. And they can find a few things that I can say make sense. 60% of American Jews do vote Democrat, and that started because they were originally immigrants, and the Democrats always catered to immigrants, as they always catered to minorities since the 60s. So you can understand that. But a lot of high-up politicians that are very leftist are Jewish. A lot of college professors that are very leftist are Jewish. Jews tend to rise to the top of societies on the right and the left, for good or for bad. So I can see their point in where they say, Ruth Bader Ginsburg did a lot of bad for society and she was Jewish. Sure. They won't mention that Dennis Prager does a lot of good for society and he's super conservative. The weird thing is they hate on Ben Shapiro, one of the most strong and well-spoken conservatives ever, who single-handedly took down the trans movement with Matt Walsh by funding that documentary, What is a Woman? Like, that documentary destroyed the trans. I don't think people understand how much it destroyed the trans movement. The trans movement was this huge bubble, and we thought it was going to grow bigger and bigger and bigger. It just popped last year. Everyone's detransitioning now. It's not cool to be trans anymore in school. The kids calling themselves trans went at its height. It was like 10 to 15% in some schools. Now it's down to like less than 2%. And they're actually detransitioned teens and 20-something people who are suing their doctors and their psychologists for forcing their parents and talking them into it when they were too young to make a decision for themselves, when they technically couldn't give consent for what was being done to destroy their bodies. So Ben Shapiro is this incredible hero, but for low IQ people, you look at Ben Shapiro and he's not charismatic. He has this very high-pitched, nasally voice. He talks very fast. He looks like he's very short. He's actually average. He's 5'9", which is very almost perfectly. I think 5'8.5" is like American average for men. So he's not even short at all, but he looks very boyish. He looks very young. And so people imagine him being only 5'3" or 5'4" or something, which if he was, who cares? But he has this way about him where you either love him or you hate him, and most people hate him. He's easy to look at and say, oh, that guy sounds nasally and talks too fast, and I don't trust him. Whereas people say like Candace Owens has that star quality, that charisma where the camera loves her. And so people just follow her blindly, even though she's saying complete garbage that's not verifiable at all. It changes her mind every week, changes her mind every hour, changes her mind in the middle of a literal single event. She was on Piers Morgan and she said TPUSA was responsible for Charlie's death, and then 5 minutes later said, I never said that. And Pierce was like, you're gaslighting me, right? Live on TV. But her followers will cover up all that and worship her, love her. She's like a great cult leader, which every cult leader is super charismatic. But low IQ people are drawn to charisma, and they don't have the discerning ability to be like, wait a minute. I don't care how flashy and shiny and believable that person's smile is. They are talking nonsense. They're talking garbage. Anyway, this is me. Give me your thoughts. Let's talk. Let's argue. Tell me I'm crazy. Tell me I'm wrong. let's duke this out. Let's figure this out. Let's figure out what life is about, because that's fun. It's fun to get down to the bottom of things, to get to the truth. I always want to know what's at the bottom of stuff. So give me your comments, please. I'm tired of not having someone to talk with this about. So I'll have someone on the show hopefully, but for now, this is just me. Give me your comments.